Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our hybrid Sunday service of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Lynn, and I am Service Associate for today's service. We're so happy to have you here in our sanctuary, especially on Mother's Day. We are also welcoming those of you who are at home and listening to us with Zoom. We are recording today's service and we'll turn it off for our community gathering after the service. And now let us begin to enter the Spirit by turning our minds and ears to our prelude.
Good morning. I'm going to play Ave Maria. It's actually the first prelude of Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, which a couple centuries later, Gounod set a melody to.
Thank you, Karen. Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is an inclusive community whose shared principles of love and compassion bring us together. The specific principles and purposes that we aspire to are listed in the order of service. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to Summit and would like to know more about us, we invite you to our website, summitUUF.org. Click on the visitors button and fill out your online connection form. Someone will follow up with you. In addition, we want to acknowledge that our fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land, and that for more than 10,000 years, this land has been and continues to be home to the Kumeyaay people. We recognize the violent history of colonization in California and honor the legacy of the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. And now announcements. Eleanor, did you have an announcement? Oh, come on up.
Good morning. We are getting close to the end of our pledge drive. We now have just over $226,000 in pledges. Thank you so much. And we still have another $26,000 to just meet this year's budget, not to go beyond to show that we can afford a new minister. So please, if you have not turned in your pledge already, please do so as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Yeah. You just show it. Someone new is our Zoom manager today. Lots of bells and whistles to juggle. So we're getting closer. Yay. Thank you, everybody.
Our chalice lighting words today are by Leslie Poyle Cosbow. Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our one earthly home.
And now we're going to sing While Masked. Those of us up here have had our COVID test this morning, so we get to sing without a mask. But you guys are going to sing with a mask with Karen as she plays our our you hymn. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now it's time to go to Mary, our religious education director in the RE area.
Good morning, everyone. How are we all doing today? We have no children here today. So Appa and Kathy are here with me and Abby for the story. We might have some children show up a little bit later, or they might be home making breakfast for their mamas and their caregivers. So I do have a story for you today. And today is a special day for some folks. It is Mother's Day. It is a day celebrated to celebrate our moms. And it seems simple, doesn't it? But it's complicated at the same time. Did you know that today's Mother's Day began as a way to better the health of women and babies? It was also a protest at the end of the Civil War. And it was a way of promoting peace. And finally, it became a day to honor mothers and one of the biggest commercial holidays in the United States. So I researched a little bit about the origins of Mother's Day and learned about 3 women from the almanac.com website. So these are the 3 women that are credited with today's contemporary Mother's Day. So Anne Reed Jarvis, known as Mother Jarvis, was a young Appalachian homemaker who taught Sunday school lessons. She also was a lifelong activist who in the mid-1800s had organized Mother's Day work clubs in West Virginia to combat unsanitary living conditions. Reeves was concerned about the high infant and maternal mortality rates, especially pervasive in the Appalachian area, and wanted to educate and help mothers who needed the help to learn how to care for their bodies and to care for their babies. So these clubs met and they taught each other. They shared their knowledge and their wisdom of being moms. Then Julia Ward Howe, who you may have heard of, she was an activist during the Civil War. And around 1870, she called for a Mother's Day of Peace, a dedication to the celebration of peace and eradication of war. She shared her Mother's Day proclamation from 1870, and it's often posted, and you'll see it on Mother's Day showing up in social feeds. So Howe felt that mothers should gather to prevent the cruelty of war, since mothers bear and know the cost. And then finally, Anna M Jarvis, who was the daughter of Mother Jarvis. After her mother died in 1905, she wished to memorialize her mother's life and started campaigning for a national day to honor all mothers. She says, "I hope and pray that someday, someone, sometime, will found a memorial Mother's Day commemorating her for the matchless service she renders to humanity in every field of life." Anne Jarvis once said, quote, "She's entitled to it." And that is the origin of today's Mother's Day celebrated in this country. Now it's, like I said, it's complicated. There's also Mama's Day. Mama's Day, also celebrated today, is a day that was created because not all who mother felt or feel included in the current Mother's Day. So in 2011, Mama's Day was created. Now, for over 10 years, Mama's Day has celebrated all the mamas in our lives, biological and chosen, adoptive and foster, queer and trans, nearby and far, for everything that they do for us in our communities. And not all mothers give birth. Not all nurturers care for children. So this is what mamasday.org was celebrating. Now here's from their website. We know that mamahood is not a one size fits all, but most popular images of mothers exclude mamas based on their sexual orientation, race, income, immigration status, and more. And Mother's Day is one of the biggest commercial holidays in the United States. It often reinforces the traditional ideas of family and motherhood that narrowly defines one way to be a family. That's why in 2011, we created Mama's Day, to highlight the contributions of the many mamas around us and to fight for the rights, recognition, and resources our mamas and families deserve. So the Mama's Day website has beautiful cards that you can send to the mamas in your life, and I wanted to show you some. Look at these. And you can go to mamasday.org and do these little virtual cards that you can send out today. If you didn't get a card out to somebody that you identify as somebody who's a nurturer for you, you're welcome to do that, of course. There's also printable coloring pages for families at home if you'd like to do that as well. Now this year, it feels even more important to think about all the mamas, especially with the news that the protection of our rights to make decisions about our bodies will be taken away from us by the Supreme Court ruling and threatens to limit our access to reproductive care. That's according to the leaked draft. More than 150 years ago, Mother Jarvis began organizing the poor women in her community to take control of their health by learning how to care for babies and their bodies. Now, once again, we are being called to care for all people who are potential mamas as we face an extraordinary loss of the ability to care for our own bodies in a way that is best for each individual. So there are several calls to action to protect our rights and to care for our own bodies and make our own healthcare decisions. And I encourage you to take action, learn, vote, march, call, write, boycott, strike, find a way that you can take even a small step to support all the mamas. So at the heart of Mamas and Mother's Day is a celebration of nurturers, the ones who care for all of us. And we need to care for the nurture and to nurture them and each other now more than ever. So that's my story for you today. Thank you for listening, and thank you to all the mamas and the mothers and those that nurture. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you, Mary. Reverend Everett found this very timely reading for this week. The author is Reverend Elizabeth Mount, and the title is The Right to Choose. To begin, to start, to create, to undertake, to grow, to promise, to increase, to generate. All these are our birthright. As we are created, so may we create. The ability and the choice to create is sacred. To withdraw that from any person without their permission would be a violent act, the cutting off of life itself. And yet, as precious is the right to simply not, to end, to terminate, to stop, to discontinue, to rest, to hibernate, to impede, to prevent, these too are our birthright. For without consent, our ability to create becomes not a blessing, but a burden and an imposition. Without space for a no, there can be no trustworthy yes. Today we come to this holy place and time, ready to invoke the divine, to make space for the sacred, to co-create community once again. This too is a choice. You cannot, you may not be coerced into relationship with the holy or with one another. I invite you, I ask you to join us. I respect it if you will not, today or ever. More sacred than any other need individually is choice. The right to know oneself, the right to know what you are ready for, what you need, to stretch when you can, to pause when you will, to know your body, your mind, your spirit better than anyone else, and ultimately to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, will Wanjiru Warama and Doug Kay please come up before the chancel? And I see that Diane Lowry is here as well. Would you like to join us? Then please. If you come here, please. As Lynn just spoke, we are here together as a matter of choice. Wanjiru and Doug and Diane joined us as members in the past few years, but we have not yet marked that occasion in our services. So today we welcome them. After the service, there will be coffee and cake to celebrate and to feed and sustain us. For now, we will give a spoken welcome. Will the congregation please join me? Will you share the words on the screen, please? And you may also have a handout that you were given as you came in. All right. All right, the congregation, we, the members of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, welcome you in our covenant of love and freedom. We invite you to share our common quest for truth, compassion, justice, sustainability, and our belief that we may better shape the meaning of our lives through our belonging together. We join our energies, talents, and resources with yours, and we will support you in times of need as you will support us. We will walk together with free minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. And will you join with the words? Yep.
We commit.
Oh,
Okay.
We commit ourselves to living religious tradition draws from our sources of wisdom and inspiration that fosters the use of reason, conscience, and personal experience and champions the ongoing search for truth. With glad hearts, we will share in the life and the work of this beloved community.
This fellowship is our fellowship. Now it is your fellowship too. It is a cradle for our dreams and the workshop of our common endeavors. We welcome you with great happiness. And with your permission, I will give each of you a blessing. And with your permission, may I also anoint you. Doug, may your mind know justice. May your lips speak truth. May your heart know love. And may your hands do the work of justice.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
One's your, may I? May your mind know justice. May your lips speak truth. May your heart know love. May your hands do the work of justice.
Thank you.
We are done? Thank you.
Perhaps I should say that the water I used for anointing is the water from our water communion, thoroughly boiled and sanitized, and holy nevertheless.
I just have a brief comment to make at the end of this. As one of the co-chairs of the Welcoming and Membership Committee, I want to acknowledge that even when the fellowship was not meeting in person, we had people who decided to join the fellowship. So in addition to those in today's ceremony, we wish to thank all who have become members during this time and were not able to attend today's new member service. Welcome and thank you.
And now for our offering. In our chaotic world, I find myself grateful to be part of a community where the word compassion is in the mission statement. If Summit is one piece of your life where this resonates, please consider contributing to our virtual plate today. The link can be found in the chat box, and it will take you directly to the donation location. During the musical interlude, we will receive our morning offering, which helps sustain our fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Now, will you please join me in a time of prayer and meditation and hear the words of the Reverend Lay Ongiri, which acknowledge the many ways that a person may be a mother. On Mother's Day, let us mark how beautiful and how complex it can be to mother and to be mothered. To those who have mothered in any way, we thank you. To those who rejoice in the work, the role, the presence of mothering and mothers, we celebrate with you. To those who are in the thick of parenting children of any age, we appreciate you. To those who experience loss through infertility, abortion, miscarriage, adoption, or running away, we mourn with you. To those who have lost their mothers, we grieve with you. To those who have endured abuse at the hands of their mothers, we acknowledge you. To those who experience pain at the marking of this day, we witness you. To those who are single moms, grandmoms, stepmoms, foster moms, adoptive moms, mentor moms, spiritual moms, we need you. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you. May we reflect with gratitude on the wide spectrum of mothering that happens in our lives and in our communities. Blessed be. Amen. And now if we could have the video.
Nearly 100 years ago, the Unitarian minister Norbert Chapec offered his Czechoslovakian congregation a ritual to respond to their questions about how to be a community that welcomed rather than suppressed diversity. Czechoslovakia was a country formed in the aftermath of war, struggling just 5 years after the end of that war with questions of belonging and identity, trust and anxiety. Chapec's ritual took the traditional bread and wine communion that his community was too heretical for and too resistant to these usual symbols and played with this ritual. He turned instead to the beauty of nature all around them and invited each of his congregants to find a flower and bring it to the church one Sunday. That each person would find the flower that was beautiful to them was a symbol of their affirmation that each of us has a piece of the truth, our unique sense of what beauty means. On their way into the church, his congregation was in turn invited, each of them, to place that flower in a vase, which symbolized their free choice to enter into community alongside all the other people that saw beauty in their own way, symbolized by their flowers placed there as well. A free church where people freely choose to walk together across their differences. Once everyone had gathered, they'd bring the vase forward. Then the minister, Chapec, he would bless it. And then he'd invite everyone to choose a flower to take home with them, but just not the one that they came with. Again, this free choice affirmed each person's choice to be blessed by another and to receive with an open heart their different understandings of beauty and to feel connected rather than divided by this difference. In this moment where so many forces seek to divide people, to play on our fears of differences and our anxieties of the other, here we remember that we freely choose to walk together and to be blessed by the differences between us and to see these differences as beauty.
Thank you, and we apologize for the technical difficulties. And thank you to Katie Boskoff for finding that video as well. Today is a busy day. We are celebrating new members, even if they've been here for a while already. In a moment, we will have our flower communion ritual. And it's Mother's Day, with all of the complicated feelings that that can bring up. And for many of us, our gathering here is colored by this week's news. On Monday, we learned that the Supreme Court is on the verge of striking down the right to abortion in a decision that also questions other rights that are based on the right to privacy that was established in Roe versus Wade and that had been upheld for 50 years. In an interview yesterday, Mitch McConnell talked about Republicans aiming for a nationwide ban on abortion. And all of these things, membership, flower communion, Mother's Day, human rights being taken away, all of these things are more related than we might think. We are all here by choice, and we become members of this fellowship by choice. Some people remain non-member friends for years. Some people remain non-member friends their whole lives. We celebrate their contributions to our community knowing that because we respect people's autonomy, when someone decides affirmatively, joyfully, to say yes to membership, that decision means something. Our fellowship is a voluntary organization, a voluntary association of people. And that phrase, a voluntary association, has a history in Unitarian Universalism. Let me tell you about James Luther Adams, perhaps the most well-known Unitarian Universalist theologian in the mid-20th century. He was born in a fundamentalist Christian family in eastern Washington state in 1901. But when he went off to college, he became a humanist and cast off his old fundamentalist upbringing. And eventually, he became a Unitarian Christian. And then, he became a Unitarian minister. In 1935, he was invited to teach at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago, and he accepted, subject to one condition. He said that he would like to spend a year in Europe studying before starting his new job. So off he went to Germany in 1935. Adams got to see firsthand the Nazi consolidation of power. He also saw how German religious institutions responded. There were some ministers who fought against Nazism, but many churches supported the Nazi regime, and others just tried to keep their heads down. And James Luther Adams wondered, how would people in America in those days respond to a fascist movement? And he thought that the best tool that citizens had for standing up for their values and for influencing society were what he called voluntary associations, groups of ordinary people who gathered together regularly for common cause. A voluntary organization could be a religious community, like Summit. It could be a fraternal organization, like the Elks or the Masons, or a service organization, like the Lions Club. It could be a labor union. Adams thought that all such voluntary associations would help people make a difference. They would foster connections between individuals so that people could more easily act together to influence the direction of their society. And a religious organization like Summit is a specific type of voluntary association that, among other things, addresses the emotional and religious needs of its members. And within a voluntary religious association, Adams saw the benefit of having smaller communities that could be focused on specific aspects of society. Here at Summit, for instance, we have the Social Justice in Action group, which focuses on issues in the wider society. We have the Sunday Service Committee, which has been doing incredible work throughout the pandemic, organizing worship that helps all of us stay grounded in our principles. We have the Caring Committee that helps keep track of how Summit members are doing and provides emotional support to keep us going even when times are hard. All of these groups and more show that together we can do much more than we can do alone. And Adams's idea of small groups within a larger congregation has intellectual descendants today. Last year, we heard Paula Cole-Jones speak to us about the 8th principle, which we adopted last June. And she spoke of the idea of a community of communities as a way of fostering diversity and inclusion. So here we are, voluntarily gathered. We are here to help one another and to support one another as we address the wider injustices in society. And one of the ways we help one another is to provide a space where we can speak honestly about our fears and our hopes. We face real problems, problems that can seem overwhelming. And I'd like to give you all a brief opportunity to express some of your fears. In a moment, I will invite those of you present here to speak aloud a word that represents something that you are worried about, some fear, some anxiety, just a word. And for those of you online, you can type the word into the chat. Okay? So please, just name something that is concerning you right now, that is weighing on your mind. Speak out. Are there any words in the chat?
Housing, intolerance, fear, finishing,
Hmm.
entail, aging,
Hmm.
voting.
Those are some of the fears, some of the anxieties that are in our minds and hearts. Let us take a moment in silence to recognize and to acknowledge them. And now I invite you to speak a word of hope. What gives you hope? What gives you strength? What makes you feel like the world is worth saving? Just a word, spoken aloud or typed in the chat.
Friendship, flowers, grace,
Compassion.
trust, laughter,
Empathy.
caregivers,
Any in the chat?
love, nature, rain,
Hmm.
sunshine,
Thank you.
access.
Hmm. Now let us take a moment in silence to let those words echo in our hearts. Let those words echo. They name some of the things that can keep us going. We may come here with fear for the future. We may come here with anxiety about the world. But we also come with love and compassion for others in this voluntary association. We may not even realize how we can provide support for one another. But sometimes just our presence is enough. Do you remember the story from a couple of months ago about the rabbit who listened? Just being together, even in silence, can bring us strength. The gift of our presence is part of the symbolism of Norbert Chapec's flower communion ritual. We have brought flowers here representing our own lives and our own spirits. And now we have the chance to give one another hope, to share our spirits. As Karen plays, I invite those of you present to come up to the chancel without unnecessary crowding and to select a flower or two from the baskets here to take home with you. Find a flower that speaks to you with its beauty, with its individuality. Or maybe choose a flower that you're not so sure about, something unexpected, maybe not your usual choice, so that you can take it home and find a way to appreciate its beauty over the next few days. For truly, these flowers, like us, are all beautiful. Karen? still have stuff. I forgot to say, if there's anyone who would have trouble reaching the flowers, raise your hand and we can provide you one. And I wonder, are there people visible on Zoom who have flowers? I don't know if we can share a gallery view. Oh, lovely. Thank you. Those are beautiful. It's good to see you all. Now a prayer by Norbert Chapec. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest, in whom we move and who makes the parents, the siblings, the lover, and the loner what they are. In the name of the sages and the great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real siblings, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us from one another. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and endeavor for a more perfect and joyful life. Amen. Norbert Chapec did not survive World War II. He was killed by the Germans. But his ritual lives on to this day, kept alive by our faithful participation. James Luther Adams did survive the war, and he went on to think about how our congregations could be a part of supporting human rights for everyone. Together, these two aspects of our history can give us hope for today. And so, I leave you with this blessing as we extinguish the chalice. May the light of this chalice shine within us, providing hope, providing joy, as we do the work of justice that we are called to. Amen, and blessed be.
Now that we have closed the service by extinguishing our chalice, I invite you to stay afterwards for a time of community gathering or to exit after the closing circle song for some socially distant visiting outside while we set up. And I invite you to come back next week when we will welcome Reverend Dr. Arvid Straube. Please stand and feel free to either hold hands or put your hands behind your back to sing the closing circle song.